Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I want to start with another round of applause, but I want to tell you who it's for first. It's for Container Solutions for bringing together this amazing community to run this beautiful conference where we all get to meet in person. So let's hear it for Container Solutions. All right, so I have to admit, Teresa reached out to me and Carla reached out to me and said, Nathan, you have to propose a talk. And I said, all right, so you want to SRE? And they said, yes, that. And then I thought about it, and what the fuck does that talk title mean? So you want to SRE? Or so? You want to SRE? So you want to SRE? So you want a new king? Oh, sorry, that's a little too early, but the timing worked out. So look, if you want to SRE, it starts with this. Well, this is how things are done around here. This is how things are done around here. How many of you have heard this said in your organization? This is just how we do things. How many of you have said it yourself? Yeah. You know what? If you want to SRE, it starts with how you show up to work every day. It starts with the culture of your organization. And this is how we do things around here, is how we understand how culture works. I want to liberate a quote from a researcher named Ron Westrom. Culture is defined as the organization's pattern of response to opportunities and failures it encounters, or problems and opportunities it encounters. What do you think about that? How does your team respond to failure? So I want you to think about that for a minute. If something breaks, okay? Are you imagining this? If something breaks at your help? Do y'all know what's going on? It's okay. It's all right. If something breaks is a ridiculous question. It is a ridiculous question, but it's a fun way to freak out the AV team. Let's hear for the AV team who's kept us all running smoothly. So when something breaks, how do you respond? Charles, I noticed that this system is busted. What's going on?
Let me see. Oh, that service.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally not my fault. Everything looks good here. It's probably the network. Again, you should check with the networking team.
Oh, it's probably the networking team, right? Is this how your organization responds? Something broke, and immediately we go to finger pointing and scapegoating? That's not a very healthy response to failure. So, Teresa, I see something is broken. What's going on?
Yeah, I noticed that. That service never fails to surprise me.
Oh, wait, Teresa, you're not next. I'm sorry, that's my fault. I messed it up. We're going to come back to you in just a minute.
Okay.
Jennifer, this service is completely busted. What's going on?
Nathan, I'm just so fucking fed up. It keeps breaking, and I'm pretty sure it's that one person on the networking team who is responsible for the failure. You need to get them straight right now. Justice must be served.
Justice must be served. Good God. So is this how your organization responds to failure? Failure leads to justice. Teresa, it's now your turn. I see that this service is busted, but before you answer, I hope that you get it right, because otherwise, justice just might be served on you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that. That service never fails to surprise me. Let's take some time to investigate and see what's going on here.
Oh, look at that. A surprise. Let's take some time to investigate. Let's figure out what's wrong. Imagine this being your response to failure. Now, I want you to be honest. How many of you respond the first way? Yeah, of course, none of you do. How many of you have ever worked at a place where the first response was what you encountered? Of course, not where you work today. In your history, though, you've probably experienced all three of these types of responses to failure. All right, failure sucks. We all know that. But let's talk about something better. Let's talk about accelerating. Let's talk about moving faster. Maybe you've seen or read this book. Certainly, it's been mentioned a bunch of times here. This book, Accelerate, is really an investigation, some research into how do teams improve? How do teams improve our ability to create amazing experiences for our customers, to ship code faster, to respond to security threats faster? This research comes out of DORA. You all know DORA, right? The Explorer? Wait, where are we? We're in the UK, right? So this is essentially Europe. Maybe you don't like that anymore. So maybe what you meant was the Digital Operational Resilience Act. Do you all know this one? You don't know this one? Yeah, because we're not in Europe. It's European legislation that's coming for all of tech. But I will be honest, there's another DORA that I think is really important. In the state of Ohio, they have a designated outdoor refreshment area. Cheers to Ohio. They know how to party. That's not the DORA we're talking about today either, though. We're talking about this DORA, DevOps Research and Assessment. DevOps Research and Assessment is a research program that's been running for about 10 years now. This research seeks to answer that question, how do teams get better? And a lot of the things that Charity mentioned, including some of the metrics that she shared with us, they all come out of DORA and our own lived experience. Now, DORA was about 4 years ago acquired by Google Cloud. I'm sorry. But here's the great thing about that. We still have funding. We can keep this research project going. The most important thing to take away from this research project, though, is that it is platform and program agnostic. The research will never tell you, if you want to get better, use Google Cloud. Now, my employer knows that if you want to get better, you should use Google Cloud. There, I've done my bit. But the research will never tell you that. All right, so what is DORA? What is DORA? Yes, it's metrics, but it starts before the metrics. It starts with some of those things that Charity was talking about. Why the hell do we use technology? It is awesome to push around electrons and play with new toys all the time, but we do this for a reason. We do this to drive our business forward. We do this to keep our customers happy. And so DORA starts by looking at those organizational outcomes. Does technology matter? And the research tells us, but you know what? We don't need the research because we live this every single day. Technology drives value and innovation within our organizations. Technology is not a back office function. It's the thing that is driving the business forward. And if you work in an organization who does not recognize that, you have two options. You can change the organization or you can change your organization. That's it. We have to get better. So we also have these metrics. How do we measure things? And frankly, we're engineers, we're reliability engineers, we're SREs. There are metrics all around us. But how do we measure software delivery performance? We have to look at two things. Throughput, of course, we want to move faster. But throughput doesn't matter if it means that you're pushing more shit through the system. So we also have to worry about stability. What happens on the other side when those changes land in production? So this is where DORA gets its 4 key metrics from. We start on that throughput side, deployment frequency, and lead time for changes. So you've just committed a change to the version control system. You all use version control systems, right? Please lie to me if you don't. Yes, all right. So we start with a commit to the version control system. We stop that timer when that change lands in production. That's our lead time for changes, and we also look at our deployment frequency. Now, in many organizations, in most organizations, hopefully, these two are pretty tightly coupled. Maybe you do 2-week iterations. The stuff you started at the beginning of that iteration gets deployed at the end of that iteration. You've got plenty of room to improve, but that's good. But I have worked with teams, I worked with one just recently, they deploy every 3 days. I'm like, that's pretty good. Good deployment frequency. Then tell me about your lead time. Oh, it takes 15 to 18 days for a change to get into production. 5 times their deployment frequency is their change lead time. So think about this. I want that job as the engineer because I write my change, I commit it to production, or I commit it to the version control system, and then I get to kick back and just put my feet up on the desk and wait 3 weeks for it to land to production. So then I can respond to it. Of course, an engineer can't do that. They've gone on and built other things in those 3 weeks. So when it lands in production and it fails, that engineer is hosed, right? I don't remember what I did 3 hours ago. I certainly don't remember what code I wrote 3 weeks ago. So this is where the stability metrics start to come in, and I'm sorry to shock you so much there, Charity. How is that possible? Yeah, it's terrible, right? The change fail rate. I'll be honest, I work with researchers, I'm not a researcher. They call it the change fail rate, I call it the O-expletive rate, because it's what happens when you push something to production and someone shouts out an expletive. We had to get someone involved to roll that thing back, to push forward a hot rollback, push forward a hot fix, whatever. We had to make some change to correct that. And then finally, we want to reduce risk. I want no risk in the system, and I know how to get there. You want to know the best way to reduce all risk from your systems? Turn those fuckers off. That's right. You turn them off. You turn them off. That reduces all risk. But we use technology to drive our business forward. And if we turn off all the tech, then our business fails. So that we can't do that either. We can't get risk down to zero, but we can focus on how do we improve? How do we respond and restore service as fast as possible when there is something that interrupts our users? And we heard from Mandy talking about being on call. That's one good way, and some healthy ways of dealing with that. Here's the most interesting thing. Oh, well, maybe not the most interesting thing. I'm going to share a couple more quick things, a couple more quick facts about these 4 metrics. First, these metrics can be used to measure any type of technology that you're delivering. It doesn't matter if you're working on a mainframe, or you're working on a mobile application, or you're working on a web application, internal, external, SaaS, COTS, it doesn't matter. You can use all 4 of these metrics to measure how is that team doing, or how is that application doing. Second, you cannot use these 4 measures to ask how is your organization doing. How frequently does Google deploy? A lot. But I can't learn anything from that. I have to look at an application or a service and measure them at that level. And then finally, Charity made it very clear. One engineer can't do anything in an organization. It takes a team of engineers. And frankly, when you think about an application or service, it's probably a cross-functional team. And that cross-functional team needs to share ownership of all of these metrics. Remember the glory old days? Hey, developers, you get those 2 throughput metrics. Hey, operators, you get those 2 stability metrics. I used to be on that side, the operator. I knew the best way to prevent change failures. I accept no changes. Yeah, you can't change anything. That's easy. That's easy, right? No, we have to share these metrics and share accountability for them. And then the really interesting thing that has held true for every year of this research study, which has been running for almost a decade now, stability and velocity feed each other. It is a virtuous cycle. In order to be safe, in order to be stable, we must be fast. We have to get to a place where we're shipping smaller changes all the time so that we can reason about them. The ideal is a commit is a deploy. A commit is a deploy. We're single piece flow. You won't get there. That's okay. That's where you're headed. That's where you're headed. Now, as part of this research, we have launched this website called DORA.dev. I want to show that to you really quickly. I'm going to do a live demo. It's a website, so it should go okay. All right, on the DORA.dev site, we have the DORA DevOps Quick Check, which you can take here, and it's going to ask you those 4 questions. So what's your deployment frequency? It's not mirrored on this side of the screen. I can't read anything that I'm answering, so I'm carefully considering each one of these questions, as you should. Carefully considering, selecting some answers. I don't know what those answers are, but that's pretty much how we perform. And I'm in some industry. I don't know even which one. All right, so what does this tell us? 30. How are we performing? 30. 30. Go us. Now, is 30 good? Or is it bad? I don't know. If I want to make it better, what do? I know what to do to get better. I just learned about these 4 metrics. One of them was deployment frequency. So if I want to make it better, I can mash the deployment button more frequently, and then everything will get better, right? No. That's not how we get better. The metrics just give us the outcome, what happened. If we want to get better, looking at this 30, I mean, it's like, this morning I got on a scale and I looked down and there was a number. And I felt some feelings about that number. And I wanted that number to be different. So tomorrow I'm going to get on that scale and I'm going to see. Will it be different? Not if I don't change something. I have to change something about what I do. So what do I have to change? Well, over here, again, very hard to navigate when you don't actually mirror your screens. All right, here's DORA's research program. DORA starts with outcomes, then we talk about metrics. Most of the conversations end there, and that's the folly. You have to go to the capabilities. What drives those particular metrics? And on this screen, which you can't see, and don't worry, neither can I, we show you a bunch of different capabilities. But what DORA shows us is how these capabilities interact with one another. So I'm going to highlight over one of them, and I'm going to go over here to the, can't go too far. There are technical practices. These technical practices are predictive of better continuous delivery. How do I want to get better at these technical practices? Oh, I need my leaders bought in. The transformational leadership enables or predicts better technical practices. When we talk about DORA, and as we go through this research, let's see if I can do this. Nope, that way, yep. Oh, that's that. How do we improve? We have to start with the capabilities. We have to understand, how is our team doing against each one of those capabilities? Which one is holding us back? Where's our constraint? Let's go investigate and improve that. So DORA gives us a predictive model, a capability map. Don't you ever call it a roadmap. If I hear you call it a roadmap, we're going to have some words, right? It is a capability map, which means there isn't a step-by-step process that you have to take. Well, there is. And here's the process. Look at all the capabilities, figure out what's holding you back, go do something to change that one. Hopefully the change will make it better, and then you retest. You see what's your progress look like. It's like if I got on that scale tomorrow, I have a couple of options. If I want to change that number, I could go to the gym, I could eat more broccoli, I could drink, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm definitely going to keep drinking beer. So those are maybe two of my choices, right? So when we look at those capabilities though, I showed you some technical practices, but it's not just technical, it's process practices, and cultural. So process, things like how much work do you have in process? How many things are flowing through your system right now? How many things are stuck in your system right now because you have too much work in process? What does your change approval process look like? Back to that question earlier about compliance, I worked with a bank recently who, in order for a change to go to production, there was one person in the policy. Their name was in the policy. They were the vice president who had to sign off on all changes. What happened when that vice president took a vacation? It was pretty great. No changes went to production. We just waited for them to get back. How ridiculous is that? I worked with another organization who had a policy. They had a policy in their, like a written policy within their organization, and it had to do with change lead time. Any change that goes to production must have been in the version control system for a minimum of 5 days. End of policy. The fuck does that policy mean, right? All right, I know what that policy means. How many of you are marathon runners? Yeah, me either. But what do you do the night before a marathon? You don't run a fucking marathon, right? And so this code, it was like it was preparing for a marathon. It sat in that version control system just waiting. It's like, I'm going to take that marathon on. I'm going to go serve the user. And they're going to bring us all of this traffic. I need to rest for 5 days. 5 days later, all right, I'm ready. And you know what happened? They did a bunch of investigation. They looked at all of their data. Of course, they had changes that were shipped faster than 5 days. Those that waited more than 2 days had a 600% higher chance of failure when they landed in production. So their policy was actively working against them. And they were able to change that because they found the data, they saw the insights, and then they convinced people and policies and processes within their organization that they could change that. So, culture. Culture is the foundational capability across all of these things. We see that culture is the #1 predictor of better security performance. It's the #1 predictor of better technical performance and software delivery performance. All of it lands on culture. We know what culture looks like. We saw an example of this right at the beginning of the talk today. So thank you to our volunteers. Can we get a quick round of applause for our 3 volunteers? So how's your culture? And how can you measure that? Here's one way to measure culture. I want you to look at these statements here and I want you to think to yourself, do you strongly disagree or strongly agree? And I want you in your head to do the math and average these out and come find me at the break. No, you don't have to do any of math. Oh, sorry, it's not even math here, it's maths. You don't have to do any of the maths here. Okay, but on your team, information is actively sought. Responsibilities are shared. New ideas are welcomed. How do you feel about those? When you have an understanding of that, you can start to map your organization and your team's culture to this. We, the researchers are like open source developers. We liberated some research from someone else. This is research from Ron Westrom. He devised this topology of organizational cultures. What is the culture that you work in today? Is your team pathological, power-oriented? Or are you on that generative side, performance-oriented and focused on the mission? And do you know what's probably the most insidious? Because we've probably all been in every one of these types of organizations. I find the hardest organization to work in is the one where your team is in one of these columns and the rest of the organization is in another. When you are a performance-oriented team focused on your mission, and you work within a larger system that is bureaucratic, focused on policies, you're more productive and people hate you because of it. And they put everything they can to block you. That's not a healthy place to be. You want to get your organization to a more generative culture. All right, so easy. Just change the culture of your organization. No problem, right? How do you change culture? Well, culture, in order to change it, you don't first have to change how people think. You have to change what they do, how they work. This is a quote taken from John Shook. But it starts not by showing up and saying, we need to be more blameless. It starts by showing up and changing the tools that you have. Look, we want to separate tooling and culture. The truth is that you cannot separate them. Your tooling reinforces and amplifies the culture that you have. The culture reinforces and amplifies the tooling that you have. I'm going to give you two high-level examples. The first one is cloud. I tell you what, when I was coming up, one of my first roles as a sysadmin, I was responsible for managing the customer and partner extranet at my organization. Now, some of you in the room are too young to know what the fucking extranet is. Maybe that's next year's conference from Container Solutions. WTF is an extranet. Please know. An extranet, for those of you that don't know, it's a website, but you have to log into it in order to access it. We just call those websites or applications today. But back in the day, we called them extranets. And my extranet ran in our data center that was literally in the office, like it was just the room over there. But our business was growing, so we had more customers and partners coming to our extranet. I'm like, boss, I need more capacity. He's like, no problem, Nathan, I got you. Fill out this form, bring it back to me. I'll sign it. We'll take it over to accounting. They'll call up the right requisition people. They'll ship us a server. And it was true. It was a very seamless process. And a mere 18 months later, I was able to log into that box that had been racked into the data center. On the very next job that I had, I could get servers by filling out a web form and dropping down a credit card. And within minutes, I'd have a full server that I could never touch, but I had full access to it. I would never see it. I would never touch it. It was glorious. So what did I do? When I needed a new server, I over-provisioned the fuck out of that. And when I needed one, I got 7 because that's what I knew. That's how I worked. I knew that when I needed a resource, like compute, I had to get more than I needed. And once I had it, I named them. I loved them. I cared them. I went home and I said, wife, you'll never believe what this server did today at work. It was amazing. We really cared for them, right? Eventually, we learned that the tooling of cloud changes how we work, and it changed the culture, right? When you're able to actually leverage the full benefits of cloud, when I can have on-demand self-service, when I can have broad network access, when I have measured services, there are a bunch of things that change. My ability to take on more risk changes. I can spin up a server right now, I can kill it 2 minutes later, and then I get another one. And when I start building in automation, this changes how we take on risk, it changes how we work, it changes fundamentally the culture of our organization. I'll give you another great example, reliability. Any product owners in the room? No? Okay. All right, well, imagine that you went to your product owner. Charity, will you be my product owner? Charity, I'm about to build this new system. You're my product owner. How reliable would you like it to be? 100%, she says, 100%. She's the best, most kind product owner I've ever met. The product owners I usually work with say, Nathan, now, we know you're going to give 110%. So I want 110% reliability out of that service. Can we get there? Yeah, no. Look, we know that 100% is the wrong reliability target for basically everything. Right? So, but just because we know that doesn't mean that that's how we show up. How do your leaders show up? Look, boss, 100%, we can't get there. That's fine, I'll take 5 9s. Okay, why 5 9s? Why not, 4 9s? Hell, why not 9 5s? Could we be okay with 9 5s? I like 9 5s. That sounds better, doesn't it? It's more of the thing. It's more 9s, more 5s. But look, when we as leaders, when we show up and say, all right, I know you can't get to 100%, so we're going to set a goal of 5 9s. But really, what I mean when I say 5 9s is 100%. What that leader is doing is saying, welcome to work today, you are going to fail. And when you come back tomorrow, you're going to fail, right? That's a horrible way to approach the world. You know what else is a horrible way to approach the world? Is by writing big, long words and adopting them as part of what we do. Reliability. How many times do you have to type that? It fucking sucks. So I don't like the word reliability. I'm trying to destroy it. So I like to abbreviate it as R9Y. And the best thing about R9Y is now we can argue, right? When we say reliability, everyone pretty much agrees this is how you pronounce reliability. When you say R9Y, how do you pronounce that? Now we're real techs, right? We can say it's R9Y, or my preferred way to say this, anyone guess? Ronnie. You just call it Ronnie. Ronnie. All right. So I want to show you one other quick thing. Let's see how quickly I can do this. Ronnie.dev. Let's see. All right, I'm here. Let's see. Can I go there? Yep. And can I go there? Oh, there it is. All right. Ronnie.dev. This is another website that we've been working on. I will admit that this is a website that's built by a community of practitioners. It's not driven by research. DORA, driven by research. Ronnie.dev, driven by practitioners. The best thing about that is it means we need your help. We need your help with Ronnie.dev. And in particular, we have this thing called the map, the Ronnie map. Look at that. Isn't that glorious? This is all the things you need to do to get to 5 nines. And you can't get all the way over there to 5 nines if you don't start all the way over here with 1 9. Now, you can't read anything there. That's okay. I don't want you to read anything there right now. What I want you to take away is Ronnie.dev. We talk about a lot of things, and we have a lot of opportunities for easy contributions from you. So as a community, let's create this together. Okay, then, as I'm wrapping up here, you want to learn more about reliability and how do you do it? Just read the SRE books from Google, because we know what's up. We know what's up. Have you all read the reliability books? Yeah, me either. I mean, they're this big, and there's like 3 of them. All right, so if you don't have time to read all of that, I'm going to give you something else. The Enterprise Roadmap to SRE. How does an enterprise get to SRE? You follow the roadmap. All right. Well, here's the great thing about this book. It's built on foundations. It highlights a bunch of challenges. It gives you a lot of advice. Here's the best thing about the book. It's 53 pages long. Yes. All right. So you're going to go and you're going to read the SRE book. You're going to play around with DORA.dev. You're going to make some contributions to Ronnie.dev. And guess what? We will get it right this time. Why are you laughing? We're going to get it right this time. I promise. Of course not. How many times have you said this? How many times have you heard this? How many times have you believed this? And let's be honest, when we get started, we always believe. There's a little kernel of us that knows we're going to get it right this time. But the truth is, the things that I've talked about today, the things that we're all experiencing, they take work. We're talking about changing culture, changing tooling, changing incentives, changing about what people care about. It's hard work, and it's going to take time. The good news is we don't have to do it all at once. The other piece of that news is we will definitely fail if we try to do it all at once. Today is Friday. If you try to change everything by the time you get back to work on Monday, none of it's going to work properly. This takes time. We have to adopt and embrace a practice and a culture of continuous improvement. I want you to take a little baby step forward. And then I want you to take another little baby step forward. And sometimes you're going to realize that baby step forward was half a step backwards. That's okay. I encourage you to learn from that. Now I have 2 more pieces where I need the help from the audience. The first is a test, and it's just like the test that we had, or the quiz that we had yesterday. The fastest to answer is the one that wins the prize. And the prize, there is no prize. Okay, so I'm going to advance the slide, and you're going to see something. And as soon as you see it, I want you to tell me what it is. All right? Ready? Here we go. What is that? All right. Now, who reads French? Who reads French? All right, what does this say? Please translate it to English for us. It's not a pipe. This says this is not a pipe. The fuck it is? Look at it. It's a pipe. Except it's not a pipe. It's a painting. It's actually not a painting. It's an image in a slot. Actually, it's not even that. It's like light projected onto a screen that makes it look like a pipe. Why am I showing you this pipe? Because for the past 2 days, you've heard lots of advice and been told a lot of things that you can do, and you have great ideas. It's like looking at this pipe. But what you don't know is, what does this pipe feel like if you were to hold it in your hand? And when you put whatever you smoke, you put that into your pipe. And then you lift the pipe to your mouth and you light the pipe and you inhale it, and the aroma and the flavor, you don't have any of that here. So if you do nothing with what you've heard over the past 2 days, that's exactly what you're gonna get, a picture of a fucking pipe. But if you take this instead and embrace it and make this your lived experience, take away what you've heard today, what you've heard yesterday, turn those into real things by putting them into practice. That's how we will improve. That's how we'll get better. All right, so in closing, head over to DORA.dev. You can do a bunch of things there. You can read the Accelerate State of DevOps report. We publish them every year. Elite is gone. There's no more Elite. Sorry, you're all only high now. You can get better. There's a capability catalog there. We talk about those capabilities. That's what drives us forward. You can find out what's holding you back by taking the quick check. But probably the most important thing that you can do, look, you cannot do this alone. And you can't even do this with the team of people that you have in your organization. You need people with you on the journey. Look around. We are the people with you on the journey. We need to stay connected. If you're interested in delivering and operating software and improving the culture for your teams, I invite you to join us over at Dora.community. There's a mailing list there. We can stay connected. We hold virtual events all the time. Stay connected with the people that you have in the room. Come join us in Dora.community. Use the capabilities to drive better software delivery and operations performance, which drives better organizational performance. With that, so you want to SRE? Thank you.